Neil, it's our friend Ken Ham again.
Yes, he doesn't stay out of the news very long, does he?
He's reared his bearded head in the news again, and we found it on pathos.com. We just thought we just had to bring it to the listeners because he's so much fun, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, the title of this article is Atheist Group Aims to Bar School Groups from Kentucky's Noah's Ark. A very interesting controversy is swirling around the 510-foot-long, $178 million supposed replica of the biblical Noah's Ark in Williamstown, Kentucky. Now, you know about the Ark, don't you, before we continue? You know about that great big monstrosity.
Yes.
It just looks like a great big block of wood, really.
But they did build it to the measurements in the Bible.
Yes, it's exacting to all the cubits and all that stuff. But it's so boring looking, isn't it? Yeah,
and it's an organisation that's basically there to try to teach woo creation nonsense.
Yes, as we'll see in this article, it is primarily to proselytize to kids, no matter what they say. The article goes on to say, since the Ark Encounter site opened in July 2016, founder Ken Ham has been soliciting schools in Kentucky and surrounding states to bring groups of students to visit. But the Wisconsin-based nonprofit Freedom from Religion Foundation, that's the FFRF, has countered that promotion by sending letters, starting in 2016, to warn off the region's school administrators. The letters inform school officials that such visits are unconstitutional. American Atheists sent similar letters to schools in August of last year. In its latest letter, sent this month to approximately 1,000 school districts in the 5 states surrounding the Ark Encounter, FFRF states, in this country, Ham is free to erect monuments to his Bible, those are his only First Amendment rights at issue and he's exercising them, but public schools are not permitted to expose the children in their charge to religious myths and proselytizing. And I pretty much agree with that. And it goes on, Ham claims atheist groups are bullying and intimidating kids, so he is now offering free admission to the site to any visiting groups of students and teachers if they decide to defy the atheists, according to a Fox News online article. Previously, students were welcomed free, but teachers had to pay $1. So what do you think he's up to here?
Well, he's trying to get some advertising because it was basically free before.
Yeah.
So for him, he'll be saying, school groups come for free. They only charged $1 for the teachers anyway. But he says atheist groups are bullying and intimidating kids. They're not. They're just highlighting what the law is.
Yeah, the Constitution. You know, that thing which you're supposed to adhere to.
He is encouraging schools to break the law.
Yeah.
Is what's happening.
That's it, exactly.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. But God's law is above the other law, according to him.
If he wants to encourage people to go, there's plenty of church groups.
Yep.
There's plenty of groups who might want to go to this thing, but he is encouraging people to break the law by trying to get teachers to bring them in school time.
That's the problem. And I know we've talked about the Ark Park before. Basically, you go inside and you see all these animatronic animals. I don't know if they move or whatever. In their pens, just, lions drinking milk and...
Yeah, trying to justify the fact that somehow out of having 2 of every kind of animal, everything evolved within a few thousand years.
That's right. 2 of every animal.
To everything we have today.
Mostly the ones that we see at zoos, not all the unusual ones like okapis and, kiwis and things like that.
And this is the same people who tell us that dinosaurs were around at the same time as human beings.
Oh yeah, I think there are dinosaurs in the Ark as well, because they are in his Creation Museum.
They're definitely in the Creation Museum.
Alongside animatronic humans, implying that they lived at the same time.
Yes.
And this is not education. This is definitely something else. In its latest letter to the schools, FFRF states, public schools cannot organize trips for students to either the Creation Museum or the Ark Park. It is unacceptable to expose a captive audience of impressionable students to the overtly religious atmosphere of Ham's Christian theme parks. In a June 2018 blog post, Ham wrote, the whole purpose of building these attractions was evangelistic. So he admits it, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely what it's for. Yeah. He also says, Ham believes his conflict with atheists is a battle over freedom of speech and religion. Well, if that battle is going on, he needs to do that through the courts, because the courts aren't on his side.
No.
Here.
FFRF, in its recent letter, cites a number of court cases supporting its contention that taking students to the Ark Encounter or Creation Museum is unconstitutional, including, now this is from 1971, taking public school students to a site whose self-professed goal is to convert children to a particular religion and undermine what is taught in public school science and history classrooms would be inappropriate. Public schools may not advance or promote religion.
Yeah, and there's many more as well. They keep trying to come back to this.
Yeah, there was a number.
They lose every time.
Court cases from then the 80s, 2000s. So that's it. He's going to keep harping on about this, which is the problem.
Basically, him and his evangelicals are going to say, "Look at those evil atheists! What they're doing." That's what they're trying to do as well. They're trying to whip up hatred towards atheists.
Yeah.
Well, all atheists are doing is pointing the law out to them.
Yeah.
He's quite happy to use this to whip up hatred against atheists.
And they're not saying close the Ark Park and Creation Museum down. It's his right to have them up.
It's his right, and do it in your own time. Nothing more, nothing less. But the headline of the story, funnily enough, is a little bit misleading. It says atheist groups aims to bar school groups from Kentucky Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
But they're not aiming to bar them. They shouldn't be going, and they're just highlighting what the law is. They're not. Yeah. They're not. The atheist groups aren't trying to bar them. The law says teachers shouldn't be taking them there.
Yeah, teachers shouldn't be as part of the school curriculum because then it's sort of saying this is fact, which is exactly what these evangelists want.
Yes, yes. But on other news, I did read that it's losing a ton of money.
I'm not surprised. It is really boring, from what I can see.
So, and
you know what they should have done? They should have built it like the traditional Noah's Ark that we see in the children's book. The great big tub with a little house on top and the giraffe's head sticking out of the hole.
Yeah.
And make it much more interactive.
It's not very realistic either because they haven't got big piles of dung everywhere from all the different animals. They haven't got the spiders eating the flies. They haven't got the lions eating the deers. And
no.
and all these species just disappearing.
Yeah. Well, you talk to people about this and they say, well, no, God, he calmed them all down or put them to sleep or, he made it so they didn't defecate so you didn't have to shovel all the shit out that little tiny window.
Oh my God, that's really stretching it, isn't it?
If he's going to do that, why did he have to require you to build a boat in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
Or a giant flood in the first place. If you weren't unhappy with the world, just snap your fingers and done. But no, you had to go all drama queen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're going to leave Ken Ham for the moment and the global flood. And we are going to approach something now which is going to get us, I think, quite a lot of interest. This is the V word, veganism. Right? Now, just stay with us, folks. Stay with us. This is very interesting because we're looking at an article which is asking whether it should have the same protections as religion. This is going to be a really interesting thing for us to discuss. And this comes from CNN. Veganism should get the same legal protections as religion. Or perhaps there should be a question mark at the end of that. An angry dispute between an animal welfare charity and its former employee will be the first case in Britain to decide whether ethical veganism is a philosophical belief that should be afforded the same protections as religion. I hope I pronounced this correct. Jordi Casamiggiana alleges he was fired this April by the League Against Cruel Sports after he discovered that their pension fund was invested in companies involved in animal testing, he told CNN. He informed his colleagues about it in spite of being told by the animal welfare group's management not to communicate with staff about pensions, the 54-year-old said. Casamiggiana argued that his case is a combination of whistleblowing and discrimination because, rather than punishment, I was summarily dismissed for gross misconduct.
So this is a case in the UK, just for anyone who's interested, and it's more about right now about employment law in the UK, whether someone should be dismissed on a philosophical belief. And I guess if you're talking about ethical veganism, it is a belief system in a way.
A lot of people approach that simply because of the ism at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like it's communism or something like that.
Yeah. Vegans get a lot of crap. Just for not wanting to eat meat, they seem to get a lot of crap. But this is an interesting one because it'll only start, if it gets through, it'll only start in employment law. But obviously, once a court has said it's a philosophical belief, it could open up all other areas.
Oh, yeah, it's really interesting to see where this is going to go.
Of law. So that's a very interesting one. People don't like this fact, but veganism is probably the healthiest way one of the healthiest ways you can live, and actually does the least harm to the planet.
In terms of the carbon footprint, isn't that right? In terms of
the carbon footprint, and that's what I'm really interested in. Obviously, animal welfare as well, because we use intensive farming. We're going to now get lots of people say, oh yeah, but what about the free-range cattle that's on the hills? Fair enough, they live for quite a nice lifestyle before we then shoot them in the head and eat them.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of our food comes from intensive farming. By the way, I'm not vegan here talking.
I'm not either.
Talking about the facts.
I like vegan food though.
Yeah, and I'm getting into it more and more.
The studio is very near to a street full of restaurants, and more and more of them are advertising their new vegan diet right out in front of the street there.
Yeah, and I'm
coming and get our veggie
finding
burger.
myself choosing more and more vegan options to try to reduce my impact on the planet. But the animal welfare side of it is unquestionable that most of our food comes through horrendous practices. I mean, for example, dairy. We artificially inseminate cows to get them pregnant so they produce milk. We take their babies away from them as soon as they're born. You watch the videos, they're crying their eyes out. We line them up in these racks that are literally called rape racks. Why they inseminate them, that's what they're called. They're called rape racks. And this is just to produce milk. Okay. So these people are definitely doing it for an ethical reason, and it is a philosophy. So I'm going to follow this one with interest. It goes on. There's quite a bit more to this story, isn't there?
Yep. On Monday, Casamajana announced on a crowdfunding site to raise money for his legal action that his employment tribunal hearing had been set for March 13 and 14. The hearing will determine whether ethical veganism can be protected by the country's discrimination legislation. Both dietary vegans and ethical vegans eat a plant-based diet, but ethical veganism is defined by their exclusion of all forms of animal exploitation and clothing. Casamajana, who has been ethical vegan for 17 years, said, "Ethical vegans don't wear leather, avoid zoos and aquariums, and try to avoid animal-tested products."
You can see why he's upset, just on a basic level, though, because this was company, the League Against Cruel Sports. When they say cruel sports, they're talking about hunting animals and stuff. The fact that they're investing in shares of companies that have animal testing don't really go with their philosophy. So I can, on a personal level, I can see why he was a bit offended by it and wanted to inform other employees.
But I wonder if does a philosophy like this, which doesn't have the structure of a religion, is that going to pull as much weight as, say, one's religious beliefs if he did it for reasons against his Buddhism or say something like that?
I think it will before too long, because it's interesting, because as alternatives come along to meat that are near to or as good as meat or milk or dairy, then the ethical question comes in more and more, because you have to then say, well, why am I eating this when it causes harm to another sentient being?
And we have an alternative.
And we have a good alternative.
Yeah.
So there, the ethical choice becomes very clear then right now. I mean, some people would argue right now, there is, if you want to eat certain proteins and all that, I mean, vegans will tell us this is nonsense because you can live a perfectly healthy life as a vegan, but they will argue, oh, you need to eat meat, you need to do that. But generally the meat eaters just like the flavour of meat.
Yeah.
They like what they're tasting. And when ethical things come along, like clean meat that's grown in labs, for example, or I've heard about the Impossible Burger, I haven't tasted that yet, apparently you can't differentiate that between meat.
Yeah, I'd like to try that.
Yeah. I think apparently there's one place in London. We'll have to pop down and try it. But it's in several restaurants in America right now. Then it becomes an ethical choice, and I think this is why a lot of meat eaters, like recently in the UK, Piers Morgan was going off his head about veganism. He really seems to have lost the plot on it. But it's because it's pricking that cognitive dissonance, because most people who eat meat know the practices that it's raised in and created in are horrendous. But in their head, that's sort of like ignored because it's the only way we can create food right now.
Yeah, this is what we grew up with, and we can easily switch that off. And,
and as alternatives become available, the anger expressed by meat eaters towards veganism or vegans or these sort of stories is definitely just their cognitive dissonance because they know they could eat an alternative that isn't going to cause as much harm. Yet they're choosing to, and that anger coming out is nearly always.
And we're hearing all sorts of excuses to why they won't eat anything vegan, because, you know, oh, it's going to reduce my testosterone levels, or it's going to turn me into a pansy, or whatever. We're hearing all these sort of weird
it tends to
conspiratorial.
And it tends to very
excuses.
much be tied up with toxic masculinity, extreme right thinking.
Yeah. I'll just become a hippie. I don't want that, you know. But I mean, I think at least what's happening now we're seeing the alternative more and more, and once they get used to it being an alternative, I mean, that's when I think that a difference will be made.
It will, and in the younger generation, certainly in the UK, under 24s, veganism is mainstream now. I mean, there's a high percentage of young people are already vegans, so that's going to filter through into the rest of society. And then maybe they won't get as much grief. And on the other side of it, the stories of the vegans going around smashing stuff up and throwing blood on things and that. I understand why they're trying to do it, but on a personal level, I don't think they're helping the cause very much. I would very much advise going down the route of it's better for the planet because of the carbon footprint, because of the water usage, those sort of arguments. I found them to be much more compelling myself. And that's why I'm eating less meat where I can. I'm reduced my dairy intake massively. So, yeah, I would go down that.
And it's fun to try new things. Let's face it.
It is, and some of it is surprisingly good now.
Yeah. It is our view that the tests are comfortably met by a belief in ethical veganism, and that Mr. Kazimierz personal belief is sufficiently strong to achieve that protection.
That's what his solicitor said.
That's what his solicitor said. Yeah,
So we watched that one because, that'll be precedent if that comes in, and then all of a sudden all sorts of things go off, and we will see lots and lots of people who like to call people snowflakes getting very upset.
And another group who are very upset are Scientology.
Yeah,
did you see this?
It's a very serious story, this.
au.news.yahoo.com reported that Hollywood star Leah Remini is blamed for the alleged murder at Sydney Scientology headquarters. Oh boy. An extraordinary letter blames a Hollywood star for an alleged murder at Sydney's Scientology headquarters earlier this month. A 24-year-old Scientology member was allegedly stabbed to death by a 16-year-old boy on its premises in Chatswood on January 3rd. Remini and a former Scientology spokesman, Mike Rinder, host the Emmy-winning show Scientology and the Aftermath, which features explosive interviews detailing alleged abuses inside Scientology. Scientology claims threats were made prior to the alleged incident, and that the attacker was inspired by an anti-Scientology website that featured your people and included a link to Remini's show. The letter accuses Remini and Rinder of incited hatred and demand that A&E stop the program. Well, they're just shitting themselves because the program is highlighting all the abuses of Scientology, which are myriad. There's just so much. If you watch the show, the way they harass people, they insist that people have abortions if they're pregnant. They harass them to max out their credit cards so they can buy these courses, and it just goes on and on and on. And the show is doing, I think, it is really highlighting just what an awful shit show that this so-called religion is, Scientology. And they don't know what to do. I think here, they think they have found something. He's accused Leah Remini of murder.
Yeah, it's obviously a tragic story. Unfortunately, there's far too many kids all around the world getting stabbed on a daily basis. This is a stretch for me, because nowhere in that program have I seen any hatred propagated or promoted at all. It's like you said, it's highlighting the abuses of Scientology. It seems like a stretch, but then again, it's not sort of language we're used to, isn't it?
Yeah. But it does look like they are really scared now, because this show is in its third season, and people are coming forward every episode saying, you know, talking about these horrible stories of what's happened to them in Scientology and the way they were treated. And she rarely says on the show, you know, don't join Scientology, people. She doesn't actually say that, but she doesn't have to. But they know that damage is being done and money is being lost, so this is their reaction.
And if you're making a program like that, and there is no message of hate in it, there is no message of go out and get these people or anything like that, you can't be held responsible if someone decide to take it upon themselves to create an action that's led to someone's death. That's not your fault. Unfortunately, this disturbed person has just done something terrible. Unfortunately,
that's the world we're living in today, where young people do go around shooting and stabbing, and for whatever reason.
Now, if anywhere in the show Scientology and the aftermath, it had sort of asked people to go out and take action, ask people to commit things, then I wouldn't say that at all. I wouldn't defend this at all, because I don't defend the Bible, because it does tell people to go out and do horrendous stuff. I don't defend the Quran, because it does tell people to go out and do horrendous stuff. It's a terrible story, and it is them trying to take advantage of a horrendous situation.
Indeed. It has been reported that the mother of the accused was at the Sydney venue to do a purification rundown, a course which can lead to joining the so-called Sea Org, the group comprising the church's most dedicated members. Members are often required to disconnect from the family in order to become part of the exclusive Sea Org. Producers of Scientology in the Aftermath say they have no plans to cancel their show. Well, I'm not too surprised. And good.
Yeah, it's and they said it's a little more over the top than one would expect even from them.
Yeah, I think Mike Render said that,
I think
he's seen a lot. He knows that they will go to extraordinary lengths to protect themselves. But this, and I think this does indicate that they are really scared about what this program is doing. There's never been another program like it. 3 seasons of basically exposing a religion's harm and abuses.
Yeah, it's fantastic, because up until now, I guess most people wouldn't really know very much about Scientology until they'd watched the show. Or maybe listen to some of your
Tom
shows
Cruise
or interviews.
Yes, maybe. And they wouldn't know much more, but now they know a heck of a lot more. People are becoming almost experts on it because of this show. And good on her for what she's doing.
Definitely.
Okay, so I think that's it for now. We're still in January. Who knows what 2019 is going to hold for us? A lot of more interesting stories. I wonder where the world is going. It's going to be it's going to be intriguing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. 2019 is going to be a very interesting year. Brexit, Trump, Brazil wanting to cut down the rainforests, evangelicals all over the world on the rise. Anti-Semitism. But
good stuff as well.
But progressives are now taking back control. So by the end of 2019, maybe we'll see light at the end of the tunnel.
I think so. I think I can see it now. And I'll see you here next week.